Hello friends, this is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and welcome to another League starter build for Path of Exile Legion League. This time I'm going to go over what I think the best melee starter build is going to be, and since melee is kind of uncharted territory, we don't even have the gems on Path of Building yet, so we can't see the real potential for them. I'm going to put myself on the line here, and I'm going to put myself out on a limb, and this will be my league starter for the league. So I am so confident that this is the build I want to go with, that it will be my league starter. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so here we are. We have the Cyclone Slayer. Nice and simple. Everyone wants to play Cyclone. We'll see how many people actually do it. Kind of a put up or shut up situation here. I think a lot of people just go Essence Drain Contagion because it works really well with the league mechanics, and we'll talk about that later. But to start off with, we're going to go through this. Now, one thing to note is that the gems are very different, and currently Cyclone and Path of Building doesn't have the channeling tag, which means we can't put infused channeling and see how much damage it's going to do. Instead, I'm using Brutality as kind of a stand-in and just using Herald of Purity. Ideally, we'd want to be using Hatred and Infused Channeling for our 4 links instead. And possibly, for a long time, instead of increased critical strikes, just faster attacks to work out. But what we'll start with is Cyclone, melee physical damage, Infused Channeling. You'll need some intelligence for that, so you might have to run some intelligence on your gear while you get going. And then from there, we'll probably do like faster attacks for another build. And then you can always have increased critical strikes after that point. And increased crit damage or conk effect for bosses would be really nice. A lot of extra boss damage there. The change to Fortify might make that worthwhile for the extra defensive power as well. So you have a lot of options for your 6 link. Brutality is fine, but it's mostly if you're going to go Starforge. And currently I am also running Blood Rage so that we can get those frenzy charges, which I don't have listed just yet, but there you go. You'll want to run Blood Rage while you're clearing for the increased attack speed and more damage from the frenzy charges. Generates those very nicely. We have a lot of leech, so we'll be able to sustain that as well. And oh yeah, of course, we're also running Onslaught. We have a couple of ways to proc Onslaught. So for this particular build, I'm going with axes. Specifically, I'm picking Calm's Primacy because I think it'll be readily available in the end game. It's a pretty good starter axe with the accuracy, decent damage, and the culling strike. So I think this is a good start. Because it's going to be league specific to Legion, I think it will be fairly readily available because people will be farming that. For the skill tree, we're going to head through and grab Master of the Arena right away, go over and grab Art of the Gladiator. We're going to get Destroyer and then head over towards the Marauder starting area. On the way, we'll pick up Martial Expertise, which now has some Leech synergy, along with some Leech to begin with, some innate Leech itself, 0.8% physical attack damage leeched as life, which is really nice, especially with the Leech rate we get on top of that. We'll go up through Heart of the Warrior and Born to Fight, back through Butchery, Barbarism, and we're going to head down and get Slaughter right away, because that'll give us that chance to gain Onslaught on Kill, which is really nice for leveling, so we'll want to get that as soon as possible. May even want to skip the Martial Expertise just so we can get that as early as possible. From there, we're going to start grabbing the crit. But first, we're going to go down here. I think Soul of Steel is going to be a really great node to get because it gives you a massive amount of armor, and then it also gives you flat physical reduction on top of that armor, along with +1 to all elemental resistances, which is going to give you a lot of tankiness. It's a really, really nice node, a nice set of nodes. So it'll also make it easier to cap off resistances. From there, we're going to finally start scaling some crit. Probably get Brinkmanship before we get Dismembering, just because it gives the melee weapon range and lots of area, which is hard to get. So Cyclone scales from the weapon range and the area. This gives us both. So this is going to be a fantastic skill to get for clearing early on. Once we got that, then we can finally start getting the crit nodes. We'll get Dismembering, we'll get disemboweling and all of the nodes around those. Very important. And that'll be right around the time, or probably a little bit after, we get Overwhelm, which will give us a base crit chance of 8%. So we can run 5% crit chance skills, and those will give us, it'll bring it up to 8%, meaning every single bit of crit that we get is going to be substantially more important. That's when you can start running increased critical strikes as well. From Path of Building, it looks like the flat does stack onto that base, the flat you get from the increased critical strikes gem. If that's the case, it's going to bring our critical strike chance up very nicely. And then we're going to want to just start filling out life. So we'll head up to the Scion life wheel. We'll get Berserking. We also want to start going down through the Golem's Blood. Harvester of Foes is going to be incredible because the whole node gives you a whole lot of accuracy all the way through. So that's going to make sure we're landing our hits, landing our crits. This says 90%, but I just want to address this. The accuracy formula is going to be changed. If it turns out that the accuracy that I have here isn't enough, what we simply do is get a little bit more accuracy on our gear, so it's not that big of a deal. We want to get over 90% for sure, as close to 100% as we possibly can, because that's going to affect our crits as well. So we'll be getting that, going through Golem's Blood, and we will head down to Feller of Foes, which gives a nice amount of crit and flat accuracy with axes. You can also use this with swords if you're willing to invest the first 9 hours or so of your actual league start. You can try to farm up an Onigoroshi between the scaling damage that will now be on Cyclone and the scaling damage from Onigoroshi. You'll never have to switch weapons. You'll have a 6 link from the start, but by the time you actually get your Onigoroshi, some people are already going to be farming maps. So if that's something that you're willing to invest in, or if you're playing solo self-found, that might be something that's worthwhile. So that is pretty much the skill tree in a nutshell. The mechanics that we're focusing on are going to be, well, let's get into this. We are looking for leech, so we are going to get endless hunger, which gives us a little bit of life leech, pulls us up to a solid 1% life leech. We can get other leech nodes on the tree if we'd like, or get it from gear. Preferably though, we just have the leech from martial experience and from the endless hunger mini node here, and then we can get the enchantment, the leech enchantment from the labyrinth, which you can get from boot enchants, of course, which will give 0.4% life and mana leech. The mana cost here is also misleading, I just want to point out, because currently in Path of Building, Cyclone has 12 mana cost, and it is going to have 2, so that'll scale. It's going to be less than 1/6 because of the way the multipliers work. So we're probably actually looking at a mana cost of 5. So it should be extremely easy to do that. Now, with infused channeling and increased critical strikes, we are going to need some intelligence. Some ways we can get that are hard knocks and mana flows. Otherwise, you're going to have to get it from gear. The other Ascendancy points that I take are going to be Headsman, which is extremely important. Can't take reflected physical damage. We'll probably take this for our 3rd Ascendancy, so we'll have it right at the end game when we get into maps. Then we can run Reflect maps. That's very, very important. And it gives a lot of more damage as well, more damage multipliers. With infused channeling, we're going to have a whole lot of more multipliers to begin with, so this is going to be incredible for that, because more multipliers stack on each other multiplicatively. Now, Impact is probably going to be the last one we take, just to give us more area. There's a lot of area to be gotten with it, with the increased melee range giving us the larger base area, and then 5% increased area of effect per enemy killed recently, up to 50%. 50% area is incredible. Once we get mapping, if our clear speed is quick enough, as long as we're moving from pack to pack in less than 4 seconds, this will make sure that our area is practically screen sized. So this will be incredible for clearing, and will give us 50% increased global accuracy. So very, very nice. And it also gives more melee damage based on proximity. So when you're bossing and you're right on top of the enemy, you're going to get an additional more damage multiplier on top of the more damage multiplier we're getting from this, and all of the more damage multipliers that we get from the gems now that infused channeling is able to be used with Cyclone. So this is really good synergy right there. For the gear, I'm going Calm's Primacy, should be readily available. I'm a little worried about Starkanja's Head. While it is fairly common, I do think it'll be a chase item given the critical strike chance and attack speed and the large amount of life, just because so many people are going to be running melee and a lot of people are going to be running evasion melee. So I think Starkanja's Head is going to be fairly valuable. You can use a rare helmet with just a lot of life, some resistances on it as well, and that way you can also get intelligence from that if you have a hard time getting it elsewhere. Just as a stand-in, I'm currently using a Belly of the Beast. You can just use a high life body armor, of course. Try to get a 5-link as soon as you can. Pretty cheap even early in the league, so hopefully you'll be able to get that up. But it's nice to have the extra up to 40% maximum life. Scales it up quite nicely. Gear, we just want life and resistances for the most part. Gloves, it's nice to get attack speed as well. I don't have it on here, but if you can get physical damage and or attack speed, that's going to scale your damage up nicely. And if you don't need the resistances and you can get a decent amount of life on top of those, that's a good thing to aim for. Boots, movement, speed, life. I'm liking Carnage Heart a lot just because it synergizes with the leech. It'll give you 2%, so we have the 1% innate, possibly 4% if we get the boot enchant, and then a 2% more with this as well as increased damage while leeching and increased leech rate, which is really nice. We get a little bit of that from the tree, but the more the merrier. We want to be able to stay topped off at all times, and since we'll be hitting very rapidly with all the more attack speed multiplier offered by Cyclone, that's going to be incredible. Also, Carnage Heart gives all attributes, both as an innate as well as one of the stats that rolls. So you can get up to 56 all attributes, gives you some life, helps you hit your intelligence requirements. I think it's just a really great all-around amulet. There are definitely other ones you can use. Another thing to note is the Belt of the Deceiver, and I don't currently have Flasks yet, but there are a lot of good flasks. You're probably definitely going to want a diamond flask. I believe there is a flask. Let's see. Lion Eyes. Where are you? Granite. Lion's Roar. There you go. Lion's Roar is going to give you more physical damage, so that's going to be really important. I want to pump that up. But we can go ahead and add that. That'll give us a bunch. We can add a diamond flask. So if we go in here, we'll go to flasks. And utility flasks, add a diamond flask, add that to build. I'm just not even going to roll it, and there you go. That'll put us up at a very, very, oh, it looks like it's not calculated properly, but that's okay. Give you the lucky critical strike chance, and that'll increase our DPS by quite a bit. And that might be just because of the way that the Ascendancy works, that's not working, or it might be an issue with POE at the moment, not really sure. But if it turns out Diamond Flask doesn't help, you can always remove that as well. Not a big deal. So Belt of the Deceiver, getting back to that, nearby enemies are intimidated. Intimidated makes it so that enemies take increased damage, and that is a more multiplier as well, I do believe. So just adding another additional more multiplier while also giving you physical damage, life, all resist, and reduced extra damage from crit strikes, making it easier to run crit strike maps and making it harder for you to get one shot. Oop, didn't mean to get rid of that, but Belt of the Deceiver is another one of those ones that's pretty common. I think it'll become a chase unique. Optimally, eventually you get an Atziri's Disfavor, which will go ahead and just pop up the stats here. Got to divine those. Potentially you go up there. As you can see, we have 175,000. We pop up to almost 250,000 from that. So that's going to be a lot of extra damage. And of course, when you factor in Hatred, which we'll do once we have Infused Channeling instead of Brutality, it's probably going to put us at a much, much higher damage rate. Some other things you can do on the tree, you can always go for additional frenzy charges, which are available here and here. And also, on top of that, There's a nice little node here that gives some onslaught effect and also gives you additional chance to gain onslaught for 4 seconds. So graceful assault is something that you can consider as well to make your map clearing a little bit quicker. Other than that, there's some jewel slots you can grab, and overall I think this is a pretty versatile build. You can definitely drop points here and there, but you're looking pretty tight. This is a pretty tight looking build, and I hope you enjoyed, because this is, in my opinion, the best melee build, and I am so confident in that I'll be running it. So another shout out to my patron Ty. I thank you so much for your support. If you want to learn how to become a patron, help support the channel, there will be a link up in the corner. This has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I will see you next time. Bye.